Hey guys, welcome to my review of this Tier 6 Russian premium tank destroyer, the SU-100Y, which I'm going to refer to from now on as the BOXTANK. I think quite clearly, from looking at the model here, you will understand why I would be referring to this absolute beast as the BOXTANK. So immediately, as this is a premium Tier 6, you can use your other Russian tank destroyer crew in it. As you can see that I'm using a combination of my SU-152 crew, and because this tank has two gunners, I'm using the gunner from my SU-100 in conjunction with the crew from my SU-152. So that's useful to be able to train them up as quickly as possible and still have a lot of fun in this tank. Now let's take a look at the stats of it quickly. We can see that it's got 700 hit points, which is more than the other Tier 6 tank destroyers. It's a very heavy tank, it's 65 tons, and it's got fairly good horsepower of 890, as we can see here on the engine, which means that it's fairly quick to accelerate. And its top speed limit is a fairly healthy 35 kilometers an hour. Its traverse speed is quite decent, 30 degrees a second. That's pretty strong for a tank destroyer. And its armor is 60 millimeters all around. Now it does have a mantle, as you can see here, which can absorb some punishment, but really 60 millimeters of armor is not fantastic, and this thing is a huge target, especially for artillery, which means that if it gets shot, that more or less it's going in unless you control someone with your tracks or with a bounce off maybe the front plate, which is quite angled here. So don't depend on the armor is what I'm saying. Now, what this tank has that more than makes up for these downsides is a fantastic gun. As you can see here, it fires a fairly unique caliber, 130 millimeters, which I think off the top of my head the only other tank in the game which fires that caliber of gun is the IS-7. It fires 3.75 rounds a minute, which for any of you KV-1S drivers out there, that's the same rate of fire. However, this tank has got more penetration with standard ammo of 196 millimeters, and it does more standard damage of 440. It also has a fairly good accuracy of 0.38, but a mediocre aim time of 2.9. This tank, however, can load a second variety of AP shell, as we can see here, which are premium rounds. It costs more, as we can see here, 4,000 a shell, unless you buy them when they're half price, which you can get them for 2k. Its standard ammo is fairly expensive at 1,100. However, the premium ammo brings quite a unique property to this tank, a bit like the Hesh on the British tanks, that it has lower penetration, but it's still AP ammo, but it does a whopping 510 alpha damage with the premium rounds. This is very significant on this tank, when you consider that this has basically got the same rate of fire as a KV-1S, and you know that the KV-1S alpha damage is good, while this thing gets 440 alpha damage with regular ammo and 510 with its premium rounds. This means that you can one-hit Tier 5 tanks, even Tier 5 medium tanks, practically all the time. Especially if you use a premium round, it's more or less guaranteed to one-hit a Tier 5 tank that is not a heavy tank. And also it can put significant dents in other Tier 6 tanks. Let's take a look, for example, quickly at the SU-100 to give you a quick comparison. Here we can see the SU-100 has slightly less health. It's got a better horsepower to ton ratio with a much higher speed limit of 50, and its traverse is better, and its frontal armor is better. It's a much lower profile tank, and its rate of fire is better, but its alpha damage is worse. What I will say is that I've been really enjoying the SU-100Y. I must give a shout out to Roadrunner, who purchased me the Motherland deal, I think it was, from last month. Very kind of you, and hopefully I can now show you some replays to do this tank some justice.
Let's go.
So here we go, we're playing the BOXTANK, aka the SU-100Y. We can see that we're in a fairly strong matchup for this tank, where we're against a significant number of Tier 5 and Tier 6 tanks. We're going to accelerate the game a little bit here. We're playing on Fisherman's Bay map. I think in this tank I'd quite like to go into the town we notice they've got 2 tier 5 artillery on their team as well as 1 tier 4 artillery. This tank does not take artillery shells very well at all. There we can see the complete size difference of the SU-100Y compared to its regular tier 6 Russian tank destroyer, the SU-100. And the only thing really that this tank has going for it over the SU-100 is just insane alpha damage, as well as the fact that it is a premium tank. It's just going to accelerate the game a little bit here. One thing you will see me doing is lining up my shots using a third-person view here to see how far my shots go down. So you can see that I'm trying to basically be able to use the third-person view here to see if I've lined up a shot correctly, and then we can see that I'm firing all the way down the alleyway. So I'm going to just camp here for a little while. This position also has the benefit of being what I would classify as a double bush location. This means that my muzzle flash will go through the first bush, negating the camera rating of that, but the second bush, which is over 15 meters away from me, will mask my position. So until the enemies get to that bush location, I should be fairly safe. Here we can see the sheer size of the SU-100Y. It's an absolute beast. This box tank is huge. I'm thinking at the moment that we've got a fairly even distribution of tanks, although we've lost a lot of our middle. Now I can see that there's an ELC making his way towards 3 artillery, but he decides to go west instead of keeping on ploughing down towards the artillery, which is very lucky for us. If he'd gone straight down the middle, as he's doing now with the Jagdpanzer, I think, oh god, we're going to lose the artillery unless I turn to try and make some shots happen. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to hit the ELC there, who takes out the SU-5 in a complete drive-by. Now he's going on to work for the other artillery. And the Hummel takes a counter-battery shell. And unfortunately, due to arguably poor play by myself and my team, we've basically sacrificed nearly half of our team already, including 3 of our artillery. So now it is time for the box tank to hopefully be putting some shells in. We can see a nice juicy side shot on this KV-1. And Shazam! 498 in one hit. So that was quite a high roll for the standard ammo type. That would be an average roll, slightly below average for the premium ammo rounds. But the sheer power and brutality of this tank, I consider it to be the ISU of tier 6. The ISU-152 of tier 6. So here I'm just trying to use some of the camera rating on the bushes to avoid being spotted. I do have 6th sense on this tank, thanks to my ISU commander. And the ELC has snuck up on us. I'm trying to line up my shot. And we missed the shot, unfortunately. The ELC is a tiny little side profile target, and I couldn't really see where he was through the bushes. Here I try to line up my second shot. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen, and now I'm pretty much on my own against these 3 tanks, apart from there's a medium tank on the east I just spotted. I missed my shot on the Cromwell. Fortunately, the Cromwell failed to penetrate us, and we haven't been hit by artillery yet. So I'm completely surrounded. I decide to take out the ELC quickly. If he gets my side, I'm not in a good position. And here we can see that the armor managed to troll a few shells there. I managed to avoid the second KV-1 shot, and this Cromwell just manages to avoid my fire. I need to keep my damage output up. That's what I'm thinking right now. So there we go. We put a rather large shell into the KV-1. I'm trying to avoid the artillery fire. I'm also mindful that there's a VK3601 behind me, and I'm trying not to give my backside to him, so he might be able to shoot me. Well played to some of our tanks on the other flank for dealing with the situation they had so well. The enemy Hummel is on a bit of a streak with 4 kills. I really don't want to go out into the open right now to take a shot from that Hummel. So the KV-1 was still there. I go out and finish him off.
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
The Cromwell should have taken this opportunity to try and flank me. He didn't, and we managed to absorb a little bit more punishment with the armor on this tank. This Cromwell is just sitting here in behind the building. I'm getting a little bit frustrated, but I really don't want to tilt out. And I wait for him to make a rather big mistake there. I roll very low, but it doesn't really matter because I get to kill him on my next shot. And for some reason I think this Cromwell really thought that I wasn't still here and makes a terrible mistake and fails to penetrate me again. So, I managed to use my tracks to absorb some of the damage from that VK3601. Actually, looking at it, we took a full hit from him there. And he plows around the corner and gets trashed. So I'm going to speed up the game a little bit here. But I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking at the moment. I can't remember where the Churchill gun carrier was. The Hummel's on 5 kills. I'm quite worried about the Hummel. He hasn't shot me though, so I'm thinking right now that the Hummel is east rather than west. Because in the position that I was, when I kept coming around the corner to shoot the KV-1, I was thinking that if the Hummel was at the west, he would have been able to shoot me there. So I'm thinking he must be east, so the buildings were giving me the cover. Just going to speed up the game a little bit here. Now I realise that I have not spotted the Hummel, and that the Churchill gun carrier might be on his way towards my base. I asked the KV-1 if he was AFK because he's been sitting in base, and I see that he's moving now, so he's evidently not AFK. So now it's a case, in my opinion, of waiting a little bit to see if the gun carrier makes a mistake, and I can use this as arty cover. Taking out the fences there is a pretty donkey move. I wouldn't recommend to destroy fences. Keen artillery player would have seen my position there. More fences being taken out by me. But I feel that currently that the Churchill gun carrier must be either in the middle or making his way down the west. So I decide this is a fairly strong position. I'm fairly sure that I thought at this point that the gun carrier was going to appear from more or less where I was aiming. I use binoculars on this tank rather than a gun laying drive. I think whether you use binoculars on this tank or a gun laying drive is situational. It's just an opinion. So right now I'm asking the KV-1 if he will follow me. Because if the KV-1 comes to the center, I feel like one of us should be able to kill the gun carrier. And there's no point in camping where the KV-1 was if the Hummel's able to get some punishment onto him. I'm suggesting to the KV-1 at the moment that he maybe tries and goes and spots. And we found the gun carrier. I haven't been spotted yet. The KV-1 did the spotting. I'm thinking that the gun carrier will come forwards. I'm worried that the KV-1's going to get shot, so I decide to make a move on the gun carrier. We get spotted and we put a fairly meaty shell into the gun carrier there. Not the highest of rolls, but we should still be able to two-hit this tank anyway. I'm worried, I'm like, don't do it, Hummel, don't do it, Hummel, don't do it, Hummel, don't do it, Hummel. And there we go, we managed to pick up the top gun on the gun carrier. So just going to accelerate the game a little bit now. We see that the Hummel made a shot on us. I'm suggesting that the KV-1 caps at the moment, while I use my binoculars and my better view range to spot to see if the Hummel advances at him. I decide to reposition to use this bush to be able to see if the Hummel appears at the ridgeline at B2, where I think he would be. If the KV-1 had a brain right now, he would have capped. He ignored my request for a bit of team play, so I decide to do the capping instead. The reason why I didn't want to do the capping is because I get one hit by that Hummel, whereas the KV-1's got a significant amount more health left than me. He might be able to take a splash shell. I'm also a rather large target, weakly armoured against a shell from a Hummel. Surprising thing happens here. I'm just going to accelerate the game a little bit. We can see that the Hummel takes his time. I'm thinking he must be coming from a different angle then. Maybe he's being a bit sneaky. I was maybe overthinking here, and I was wrong. For some reason, the Hummel is deciding to camp instead of try and win the game. And he kills the KV-1, so congratulations to him. But it was not enough. He lost the game with his terrible performance at the end there. He should have come after me, basically, and at least tried to win the game rather than hide out. Okay guys, so we just watched the game in the box tank, and here's the after battle reports. We can see that we picked up our mastery badge with a rather lowly non-double, well this is a double, sorry, this is a rather lowly amount of 3,374 for our double to get our mastery badge, which means that maybe this tank isn't played the best, or maybe lots of people buy this tank and then don't play it for many games and post very low scores. I'm not complaining. I picked up 62,000 credits with my mastery badge. We get a top gun and we get an invader as well. We can see that it was a fairly good carry really. We got over double what the next player on our team did. We hit 9 out of 11 shots, and of those, this tank's got fairly strong penetration for a tier 6 tank of 190. Which means that we penetrated all of our hits. We did 2,400 damage with those 9 shots, and we took 11 hits with a potential damage received of 955. And we still had about 250 health left at the end. So we did 100% of the base capture, and we just picked up a top gun. There's not much more really I can say. So should you buy this tank? I think it's a lot of fun. If you want to go and train up your ISU crew, if you want to train up your SU-100 crew, if you've maybe got an Object 268, your final tree, and you want to train your crew up as quickly as you can during the specials, then yeah, I think it's fun. Also, I think within its own right, if this tank is played carefully and opportunistically, I think this is a very strong tank. Maybe you can play the KV-1S well. If you can play the KV-1S well, why do you play the KV-1S well? It's generally because it's got huge alpha damage of 390 for a tier 6 heavy tank. Now this tank, the SU-100Y, has the same rate of fire, but it has an extra 50 alpha damage with its regular ammo. And if you use the premium rounds, you've got more or less the same penetration. You've got an extra 120 alpha damage. 510 is a massive amount of damage to do with the initial hit on a tier 6 tank destroyer, and it means that this really is the ISU-152 of tier 6. I think that there's a great opportunity to carry in the SU-100Y. So again, a big thank you to Roadrunner for giving me the opportunity to test out this tank. I do recommend it. I've had lots of fun in this tank. It's one of the most fun tanks to play. So, you know, if you're looking for a fun kind of trolley tank with good alpha at about the tier 6 level, and maybe you've got a Russian TD crew that you want to use, then I fully recommend this tank for you. As always guys, if you've appreciated this post-match analysis, please give me a thumbs up below. I really appreciate it. And just a big thank you for watching. I live stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays on Twitch TV/QuickyBaby, and I've also got a Facebook and a Twitter, just facebook.com/QuickyBaby, and I'm at QuickyBaby on Twitter. So maybe send me some messages, I'll try and reply to them. Thanks a lot guys, good luck on the battlefield, and I'll catch you later.